Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us today for what is part 2 of our webinar that's on the Marketing Machine 2.0 model for accountants and advisors. So looking at the list of attendees, vast majority of you are either accountants or business advisors or in that space. The content that I'll share with you today applies squarely to your business, but it also applies, frankly, to any business, particularly any business that needs to take advantage of digital online marketing. So that's any type of business, whether you're service-based or product-based. But we will focus on your perspective as accountants and advisors today. Now, if you've not met me before, my name's Michael Carter, commonly known as MC. I'm the founder and CEO of Practice Paradox. After today, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can just email us. I'll show contact details again a bit later, but it's grow@practiceparadox.com.au. And if you're a Twitter user, tweeter, our handle in Twitter is @PracticeParadox, and feel free to tweet away as we go today. Now, the reason it's part 2 today is in our last webinar, we got through the first 5 components of the marketing machine model. So the marketing machine model is all about showing you how you can very methodically and logically, based on strategy and content, message, and technology, generate inbound leads for your business. So an inbound lead is what you want in business. People come to you, they line up at your door, you're not pounding the pavement and knocking on doors, so to speak, and having to do things that, like, seriously, I mentioned in my email this morning, whenever I see or hear of someone in a business that's doing old school outbound marketing, I feel sorry for them because they don't know how to do marketing. Leads and inquiries should come to you. You shouldn't have to kind of, sure, you can do networking, and if you do networking in a strategic way with alliance partners and high leverage networking, that's good. But if you're going along to some sort of little leads club and you're going, hi, I'm such and such accountant, please refer people to me, you can kiss that goodbye when you've got a great marketing machine working for you, because every day your marketing database will grow and every week you'll get inquiries. So today we're going to cover the back half of the 10 steps to attracting your ideal clients. And in relation to each, we'll share the biggest mistakes that people are making. So here's the Marketing Machine 2.0 model. Why it's called 2.0 is we've evolved it. Since we began Paradox, it's heading on towards 8 years now. I might be showing it. Things have changed. Things change every month, every quarter in marketing, particularly around the technology side of things. And that can then sometimes flow onto the tactics side of things in terms of things you do in your marketing. But there are elements of marketing that never change, particularly around strategy. So in our last webinar, we covered that top row there across strategy, presence, publish, attract, and convert. And the goal or the end result of those 5 elements of the marketing machine is that you grow a fantastic database of people that are ideally suited to being your clients. Now, your marketing database that will be in your email marketing system, it will include your clients. Just a quick recap on this. It will include your clients, of course. It will include referral partners, centers of influence, people that you refer business to or refer business back your way as well. And it will include your prospective clients, people that come to your website and download something or sign up for your email newsletter. And that's the goal of the first part, the front end of your marketing machine, is to grow a large marketing database of people who put their hand up and said, I like you, I like what I've seen, I like what I've read, keep me informed, stay in touch, I want to learn from you, I want to follow you. Now, the size of your marketing database is a key metric. So for your regular marketing meetings, that yes, you should be having regular marketing meetings. Treat marketing as a core competence only in any business. It's a core competence, isn't it? So you need to be tracking the size of your list. Track opt-ins and track unsubscribes and opt-outs over time. So today we are going to cover the bottom row, which moves right to left, of automate, nurture, invite, sell, and onboard. Now, do ask as many questions as you like today, because I will be getting to them in the Q&A session at the end. Now, I think I might know a little bit about you. If you're in this webinar with me or watching the video of it later, there's a good chance you like your technology. You might be a little bit of a propeller head. So automation probably lights your fire. Now, that's in any area of your business. But in marketing, the automation side of things is mind-blowing. So let me just share aspects of that with you now. Imagine if you had a salesperson or a business development person, a BDM, in your business who never slept and just constantly worked looking for opportunities and contacting people and nurturing prospects. Be pretty cool, be pretty expensive. I think you might burn them out. But imagine if you had not just one person like that, but multiple salespeople who work 24/7 for you. And imagine if they logged into your marketing database and went looking for opportunities based on what people have looked at on your website. So marketing automation systems can tell you, based on a contact in your CRM, in the database, what web pages have they been to, how long did they stay on the different pages, what web forms have they used, what things have downloaded. So based on that, based on what they've been looking at and how long, it's just like, say, a retail assistant. Let's say in a retail store, a customer comes in, they're browsing certain sections of the store, and a good retail assistant doesn't pounce on you, do they? They will come up to you at the appropriate point and start a conversation. But they'll observe what you're interested in. So imagine you had someone who did that for your business, for your accounting and advisory firm, where they noticed what people were doing and then sent useful, relevant, timely information to them. Be pretty cool. And this as a style of marketing works because all you're doing is helping them. You're just being useful to them. So we talk about, in our Modern Marketing Academy, Module 5 is called Conveyor Belt. And your conveyor belt of influence is based on the fact that people, particularly when they're thinking about changing accountants or signing up business advisory services, they don't do it at a whim. It's not a knee-jerk sort of decision or reaction because there's a relationship in place and they might get to know you from afar. So your conveyor belt of influence is based on the psychology that I'll share a little bit more with you in a moment. But imagine a prospect, someone who's thinking about becoming your client, comes to your website and reads a blog post. Now, if you're not already blogging once, ideally at least twice a month, you need to be, but more about that another day. And we help firms all around the world with their blogging, including many Xero Partners of the Year. So let's say they come to your website and they read a blog post. It's not promotional. It's not telling them how good you are, but like typical marketing and advertising and bad blogging does, but instead educates them, lets them know about a gap between where they are now and where they could be in a certain area of their business or financial life. And it creates a shift in their thinking or cognitive dissonance. So where they think, yeah, we really need to do something about that. So that's step one that they've taken with you in the conveyor belt of influence. Then let's say in relation to that ebook or just somewhere in your site across the top with a tool like Hello Bar or Sumo Me or ConvertFlow or down in the right sidebar, there's something that they can download. Now on screen it says download ebook. Don't let ebook scare you off because often a downloadable, we call them lead magnets or generically in marketing they're known as lead magnets. Often 1 or 2 pages work great, particularly if they relate to the topic of the blog post. So let's say they download something from your website. Then let's say when they download that, they get the PDF, it automatically gets emailed off to them by your marketing machine. And then a couple of days later, they get another email that looks like it's coming from you or one of your team members that just says, "Hi, John, Jane," whatever their name is. I noticed you downloaded such and such on our website the other day. Just checking in to see if you downloaded it okay and if you've got any questions. And by the way, we've recorded this video that's an extension of the concepts in that ebook. I thought you might be interested in it. Click here to have a look at that. So they click on it, they can go to your YouTube channel, and yes, you should have a YouTube channel, or it could go to a blog post on your site that has the video on YouTube. There are other platforms as well like Vimeo, etc. But YouTube's great for lots of reasons in relation to SEO and your Google rankings. And they watch that video. So they've read a blog post and they've been impressed by it. you've taught them something, they're starting to see you as an authority. They've downloaded an ebook, and in return for that, they've exchanged their email address. So, an email inbox is a private place. People have to give you permission to enter it, other than spammers who should all be whipped. But that's another topic. Anyway, so they've said, yes, please communicate with me. And then they've watched a video where they've heard your voice or one of your team members or partners, directors' voice, and maybe even seen your talking head. So they've seen the whites of your eyes. They're getting to know you. They're getting to like you and ultimately trust you. Then let's say, because they've become a subscriber to your email newsletter, they attend a webinar. Now, looking at the list of people in the session with us now, I can see some are members and some are not members. Now, for members, our next Ask an Expert webinar, which is just for members, we do one a month, is on how to use webinars in your marketing. So how the technical aspects, the content aspects, promoting them, filling them, delivering them, following up. So make sure, if you're a Paradox member, that you go in and ask a question in the closed Facebook group, which is the Modern Marketing Implementer Facebook group. Ask questions. A number of you already have, and we don't care whether they're top level, big picture questions or granular, detailed technology questions. It's all of value. So you'll learn a lot in that session. If you're not yet a Paradox member, get in touch after today and we'll talk about that. But let's say they attend a webinar and they spend 30, 40 minutes, an hour with you, and you've been teaching them, leading them, inspiring them to take action. That's kind of a pretty high gradient, if you like, because it's easy. It's not much of an emotional commitment for someone to read a blog post or even potentially to download an ebook, because they could always unsubscribe later. If they watch the video, they've invested a minute or 2 or 3 of their life listening to you, and then they attend a webinar. Can you see how each of these is increasing gradient or sort of emotional involvement with you? And then ultimately, let's say that you've got some sort of gap analysis or some tool or diagnostic on your website that they can do to either evaluate an aspect of their finances or their business or any of those advisory areas that you work on. And they're submitting data, and that can then lead into the front end of your sales process. Someone who does all 5 of those, I think you'll agree, is a hot prospect for you. On that last topic of diagnostics questionnaires on your website, it's a great conversion tool and engagement device to get people engaged and interested in communicating with you, to build those on your website. Like next month, we're interviewing Drew Grosskreutz from Otium Group on the Sunshine Coast. And we're going to share some pretty amazing case studies of things that they've been doing and things that we've helped them do over the years. And we've helped them do different calculators and diagnostics that people on their website can do to see, for example, if they've got enough superannuation within their retail super funds, and based on their joint earnings and a few other questions, whether they could potentially get into an investment property through their self-managed super. And that's just one of many examples. And all of these things aren't that hard to build. There are great tools out there like Typeform and FormStack. Even Google Forms has improved a lot in recent months. And these are drag and drop simple to use. They really are. If you've ever used any of the questionnaires on our website, like how do you rate as a rainmaker, rainmaking being the euphemism for sort of a business development marketing role to grow revenue in your business, or if you've done what's your profile on our website, we built those over coffee in Paradox, so it's not hard to do. So this conveyor belt of influence pre-educates your leads. Now, behind the scenes, oh great, Matt's just commented that they use Google Forms for a client survey and it worked well. Excellent. Now on screen here is just an example. It's a screenshot out of Infusionsoft. Now, if you get really excited about marketing automation today, talk to us first, because Infusionsoft is a great tool, and Matt Sharwood, who we've interviewed in webinars in the past, who's doing great things with his advisory-focused accounting firm out of Bathurst in New South Wales. He uses Infusionsoft, and it's a powerful tool for lots of reasons that I'll share some more tips today on that. But there are other platforms. Sometimes a business might not be ready for Infusionsoft, and they might be better suited to start with a different platform like ActiveCampaign, which doesn't do as much, but it's simpler interface. But this screenshot here is an area in Infusionsoft called Campaign Builder, and basically it's a series of if-then events that you can say, if someone does this, then send them this email. Or if they do this other thing, flag them that their client manager should give them a call. Or send them an email 7 days later or 3 months later. Or update this field if they fill out this web form. Now, it's just basically a flow chart, but it's very clever. And the example on screen here is of running an event. And we'll talk about events shortly. But let's say you run an event and you've got a registration form on your website where people can register, and then they either attend or they're no-shows. Or they might then take you up on booking some sort of consultation with you or buying one of your preliminary services. So it's a branch. It's like a decision tree. It branches out. So based on whether they register or not, and then whether they show up or not, or whether they then take the next step or not, you can automate all of the follow-up emails, SMSs, tasks for your team to do. And I'm telling you, tools like this save a lot of labor. And you've probably heard me talk a lot about, eliminate, automate, delegate, and that's the kind of hierarchy. You don't want to automate everything in your business, and the purpose of automation is just to free up human beings who are best designed, or their highest value. All of our highest value is thinking, problem solving, communicating, relating, not typing, not doing things that could be automated. So it frees up creative and, I suppose, relationship building capacity in your firm when you use automation like this. So in Infusionsoft, you can use it to automate marketing related things that could be to prospective clients, or could be to existing clients to let them know about other things that you could do with them. But you can also automate operational things, such as reminders that need to happen on annual or quarterly or perhaps even monthly bases. Actually, Matt, later on, be cool in the Q&A, Matt, if you could share some of the things that you're doing with Infusionsoft around the regular surveys, how you're segmenting your clients. And segmenting, guys, basically just means finding out more about them and flagging them for their interests or what their pain points or issues are. Because it's awesome what you're doing, Matt, with Infusionsoft. So that's just zoomed in a bit closer there. You can see different things about whether they bought at the event or they didn't buy at the event or they were a no-show and so on. Mind-blowingly efficient. So marketing mistake number 6, first for today, but following on from the part 1 webinar, is not building marketing automation systems. Sure, you have to invest time, you have to invest in software, and you have to invest in implementation assistance. Now, we are certified Infusionsoft partners, but we don't actually deliver that as a service. We refer you to people that do nothing but Infusionsoft implementation day in, day out, like that's their whole business focus, and we know some really good ones, and we also know of some ones that aren't so good. So anyway, we point you in the right direction, but we can advise you about whether you should go with Infusionsoft or whether you should go with ActiveCampaign, or whether your existing app ecosystem has some elements in it that mean maybe you don't need either, and that you could just integrate some other apps and use some other tools to fill out the functionality that you need. So marketing automation, it's all about education, and it's for your existing clients and your future clients. So if you're not familiar with Infusionsoft ActiveCampaign, this is your first exposure to that concept, and you're excited, well, good. I think you should be. If you're not excited, I don't think I explained it very well. Anyway, so keep in mind too, if you're using a tool like Infusionsoft, you need to have a spreadsheet in the cloud, so you can collaborate not just with your team members, but with other advisors like us and the specialist implementation person. Have 2 lists. Have a list of the marketing automation things that you want to automate, and have a list of the operational ones, because in Paradox, I reckon we save 3 admin people easily through automations that we've built. So take a moment now. I'm actually going to give you a minute. You're going to have to do something. I'm going to give you a minute to do a little brainstorm before I shared an example conveyor belt. Write down the things that a prospective client could do either on your website or in social media or maybe even live events that could give them a series of little steps before they actually inquired and became a prospect for you. I'm going to give you 1 minute on that from now. Cue thinking music. And I'll be back in a tick. Okay, now I'd be really interested. This is an example here where you'll use chat, not question, not Q&A, but just type in the chat some of the things that you just brainstormed and noted that you could add to your conveyor belt of influence. It'll prove to me that you're listening and taking action. Because I know what these webinars can be like. You can have a webinar going on your other screen and be working along and doing things. Partial focus isn't very effective for implementation. So there we talked about automate. Let's now go on to nurture. Trusted advisor. Accountants all very proudly hang their hat on the trusted advisor status, where plenty of surveys nearly every year when people are asked, who do you trust most when seeking advice around your business, around your finances, accountants come out on top, number one, across most countries. And that's brilliant. However, people don't buy just from those they trust. They buy from those they know, like, and trust, which explains why only 1 in 10 accounting firms has crossed the value add chasm. And if you've not heard me talk about that, that's where 9 out of 10 accounting firms state that they want to do more value add services, future focused advisory services with their clients. So 9 out of 10 want to, but only 1 out of 10 are succeeding. So what's happening with the other 8? Well, they haven't learned how to communicate value. They haven't learned how to market, haven't learned how to sell, because your optional advisory services sadly don't sell themselves, because the government does not make people do them. If they did, they'd be called compliance. So you need to tick all 3 boxes. They've got to feel like they know you. And that doesn't happen when they have contact with you once a year. That's not a true relationship. That's a transaction. So they've got to feel like they know you, and frequent contact helps with that. So frequent contact, coming to your events and webinars, opening your emails and reading your articles and seeing your videos. And an element in Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, which is in my top 6 books that everyone in business should read. Dr. Robert Cialdini, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. He did a PhD in why people say yes or no to different things in their life. It's fascinating and it's pretty funny. But one of the elements of influence is liking. And so if you like someone, you're more likely to comply, basically agree with things that they ask you to do. And a sub-element of liking is familiarity. So the more familiar someone gets with someone, the more likely they are to like you. Unless there's something seriously wrong with you, then they might go the other way. But anyway, know, like, and trust. So it's a gradual process. It doesn't happen just like that. So with content-driven marketing, it can be a little bit of a slow burn. Don't start blogging and doing social media, or let's say, working with us where we can help you across all of your content, blogging, email newsletter, social media content, SEO, and measuring all of that, and be anxious about, I need leads this month, next month. Won't work. What usually happens is you build an authority and a presence over a period of months. So it's more likely over 4, 5, 6 months, people will really start to follow you and go, wow, these guys are great. I'm really liking what they're doing. So just accept that it's a gradual process over time. And if you design your marketing machine to have those helpful hints going up, and when you educate someone, they just come to trust you. And note that if you want to be an authority, so an authority is someone that people look to for guidance and advice, and who they don't question. They don't question the advice in terms of, I think you should do that. Okay, you know what you're talking about. And they're less likely to also question price. Is that valuable? Is that of worth? And if you look at the first part of the word authority, it's author. So when you author content, blogging, articles, ebooks, downloadables, and when you speak and present webinars, videos, events, you become a guru. But why we start with strategy, harking back to part 1 of this webinar, is that it's got to start with strategy. If you think you're targeting SMEs, SMBs, small business market, well, strap yourself in for a pretty frustrating, long, fruitless ride. There's never been that Hall of Fame built to generalists. So we help you get really focused in either who you're targeting, or the services you're delivering, or how they think, or a combination of those, so that you can have very specific audience. But this last point here, I mentioned that earlier, people decide to switch advisors over a period of months or years sometimes. So why this is called nurture. If you think, great, we're going to grow a list, or worse, if you follow advice from some coaches and consultants out there who tell you to go and buy a list, don't buy a list, build a list by people coming to your website, liking you, being impressed, and actually putting their hand up and saying, yes, please keep communicating with me. But if you think, okay, great, our list has grown by 100 over the last month, let's sell, let's promote to them, you'll probably turn them off. So what you want to do is know that you want to predominantly be just educate. And sure, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 things can be a bit more pointedly commercial, asking them out on a date, so to speak. Before that, you're just kind of getting to know them and helping them out. So when you do that, you create those pre-educated warm inquiries, which they're just a pleasure to deal with. There's no uncomfortable thing where you're trying to tell them why they should work with your firm, and they already know that by the time they inquire. So if you know the psychology that a number of studies in multiple countries have shown, and the numbers usually around 5, sometimes some studies have shown about 8, but we know from our data it can be fewer, but let's say 5 positive interactions or touches with a brand, then people buy. And when we look in our Infusionsoft, we can look at a contact record, and you got to love this. Even before someone even opts in to, let's say, your email newsletter list. So they haven't said, okay, here's my email, here's my name, but they've been to your website. If you implement Infusionsoft Analytics on your website, which isn't a replacement or substitute for Google Analytics, you still have that, but it tracks, it creates a record in the database. It's called an unnamed contact. All the system knows is the IP address of the person visiting your website, but it tracks, okay, they read the blog on cash flow management, they read the blog on succession planning for business, and they spent 8 minutes on it, or they looked at the About Us page, whatever it might be. When they later opt in, that history of what they did on your website before they actually went, okay, I'm gonna give you permission to communicate with me, it's all in there. Big Brother maybe, but the technology is there, and it actually helps you understand what's driving them, what their interests are already. So the psychology, use technology to build that, and that's what we show you in module 5 of the Academy, and also in even more detail in our Modern Marketing Implementer platform in different areas. So there's digital and online, social media marketing, and that really matters, clearly, but don't think that modern marketing is just about that. There's still strategic relationship building, still meeting with people, lunching with people, going to events. Do both, but it's content driven, so content's education but also a clear message, and use marketing automation. And the counterintuitive thing here, this is always the case, that when you get leads that come along your conveyor belt of influence, they are better than a typical referral. That's right. Better than a typical referral. Now, I'm not saying that referrals are bad, but have you ever had a referral that was a bit of a mismatch? Like they came to you and they were maybe underinformed. Maybe your existing client or referral partner said, oh, go see John, go see Jane, they're great. Or worse, go see John, go see Jane, they're really good, and I think they're undercharging for their services. They're cheap. And then that person comes along and they're not pre-educated. They don't understand you, like why you do what you do, what's driving you, your values. They don't understand the background, the mix of services, if they've just come straight in. So to me, a referral, even though there's a high trust level, the pre-education is often minimal. Now, why, conversely, a lead that comes to you, an inbound lead along your conveyor belt of influence, is better, is you're controlling the message. With a referral, you can educate your clients and say, look, when the opportunity arises and you hear someone talk about these issues in their business, or they're in this type of business, or they're at this stage of their life, as you know, we specialize in that. Here's what can work well for what you can say to them. Chances of that actually happening, probably pretty slim. But with your marketing machine, you're controlling it. You're controlling the blog posts. You're controlling the content of the email newsletters, your social media, your videos, your webinars. And control's good. I might be a control freak. Ask my wife. Ask my kids. Anyway, so marketing mistake number 7 is not building a list nurturing system with great content. Don't be a stranger to your list. Something that often gets raised is, but we've only got 20 people on our list, or two people on our list. I don't care. I don't care whether you got 2 or 2,000. Don't be a stranger to them. You need to be educating them and letting them know things. So let's say with blogging, if you've done a couple of blog posts in the last month, don't expect people to find them. Now, people will find them if they've been SEO'd to rank well for specific phrases, and that's great. That's called organic search. And people will find them through social media because you will promote them in your social media, such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And by the way, we do that for you as part of our service. But don't forget about the people that are closest to you, your clients, people, prospects have already subscribed, your referral partners, like bank managers, different sorts of legal advisors. So you've got to get that email newsletter out every month. If you're not, you're kind of running an undercover operation. And in addition to a branded email newsletter, also you can use your broadcast tools. And by the way, we no longer recommend MailChimp. It's okay for email newsletters, but it really sucks. Can I say sucks? I'm going to say it. It's really bad at automation. Even though they've got an automation feature, it's worse than bad. So in addition, though, to sending out your email newsletter that looks like a newsletter, use ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft, or if you're still on MailChimp, that's okay for now. And send out broadcasts, emails that look like a personal newsletter. A personal email, straight from you. So it's unbranded. But what you do is you get your team member or your marketing assistant. And by the way, we have a virtual marketing assistant service where you can buy 5 hours, buckets of 5 hours of time, and we can do all these sort of little jobs for you. And what you want to do is the look and feel of your emails as they look when they come out of, Outlook or Gmail or Carbon or whatever you're using. Match the colors and the fonts and the logos and the signature, etc. at the bottom with a template. And then you can do broadcasts, very brief ones. Now, I don't want to break the news suddenly to you or anything, but the email that you received this morning was that style. And we know we get higher open rates and click-through rates on those simple emails. So if you mix a branded newsletter every month with 1 or 2 of these other simpler ones, works really, really nicely. Works better than either in isolation. So that's marketing mistake number 7. So we covered automate, nurture. Now look, if that's all you did, you'd end up with a really big happy list. And that's nice. We can all link arms, we could sing, but at some point you need to ask them to do something. You need to invite them to dance. Back in the old days of dances in halls. God, I'm showing my age. But people need to be invited. So they will take action when asked if it's the right thing at the right time. And you've brought them to this point. So you need to invite your list to a natural next step at some point. So this is often the phrase that we say is ask them to book or buy. So ask them to book into something. So webinars are brilliant, and physical events are great too. And I always love it when I see Paradox members who are doing webinars consistently on a monthly basis. We have a member at the moment who's implementing an excellent niche portal strategy. So niche portal, that's in module 1 of the Academy, where based on a very specific target market you're going after, you identify an association, another business, another person who's already dealing with those types of people or businesses or investors, and you work out how you can add value to them and to the people that they know, and do events or publish articles into their newsletter, onto their blog, etc. Anyway, she's doing a monthly webinar statewide and beyond, but she's in Victoria, to the state-based association for this style of business owner. And she's doing 6 or 7 in a row, month after month after month. She's running through a best practice model about how to, and I'm not sharing the style of business out of respect for her own strategy here. And so 6-7 months in a row, she's being put in front of her target market, being endorsed and promoted by the association. High fives. Because how good is that? That is why the niche portal strategy is the fastest way we know of generating targeted leads. But back to the book or buy thing. Invite them to events, workshops and webinars. But sometimes if they've come right along your conveyor belt and look, these guys have kind of been in our circles there for a while, you can invite them to just book a web meeting with you. Or maybe lesser gradient than that is to take a diagnostic. For us, we have a marketing gap analysis. So that's a questionnaire that adds value just by virtue of you doing the marketing gap analysis. So it's a questionnaire online that sends the data straight into our CRM, Infusionsoft. You get value out of just doing it because it'll pose questions where you think, gee, I hadn't thought about that. Or, I find that hard to answer definitively. So that's a good thing. And then we have a conversational web meeting after that. So you can implement similar things. But really, you've got to invite them to take action. So remember, that should only be like 1 in 5, 1 out of 6 messages. Now, inviting people to third-party events is fine too. Like last year, Matt Sharwood from Advise and his business partner, Dave, came along with us to Infusionsoft's national conference in Phoenix, Arizona, which was brilliant. Matt's going along again this year. So if you're not quite ready to run your own events, and there are some good third-party events happening, bring them along. Part of what we're doing with the Modern Marketing Implementer platform is that we're designing that to work for you as business advisors and your small business clients. So you'll be able to invite them into the Implementer platform, so your business clients, invite them into our webinars and invite them to our masterclasses as well. But there are plenty of good events out there. And if you think, gee, that's a good event, I'm going to go along to that. Reach out and invite half a dozen of your clients to join you and say, hey, come along with us. We're going to it. It's going to be great. And let's have lunch together or let's have dinner together afterwards. But events are great because events create an energy, a vibe that is hard to create online. You get people together in a room. There's something special that goes on that can't be replicated. So if you're a Paradox member and haven't been to masterclass, keep an eye out. Our next masterclass is mid-June. 2-day event happening to be confirmed very shortly within the next week, either in Brisbane again or perhaps on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. But they really do create an energy, and that energy motivates people to want to take action. Now, clearly after an event, that know, like and trust goes through the roof. It really does. I was talking to Ben Walker of Inspire CA, another award-winning firm that we've taught how to do their marketing. And he does events all the time. And it's great. You have a look on their Facebook page and they're just filling rooms a couple of times a month, if not more, with 30, 40, 50 people. And they're not always the presenters. They get along third parties to present on different things that are topics that are not dry about tax and structuring, which is important. And they do events on that as well. But often they'll get guest speakers along. And I said to Ben, so what call to action, what invitation are you doing at the end of the workshops these days? Because we'd advise them around testing different gradients about booking a time or putting together like a half day or 3-hour advisory product that you can sell at a lower dollar value. But what he shared, I loved, because he said, MC, we don't have to do them anymore because afterwards people are just lined up. They're just lined up. They want to come talk to you and they say, love you guys. How do we switch to you? How do we become a client? And that comes from events. So, but you don't have to have the pointed call to action. But at some point, you've got to invite them. So that's why it is a mistake to not run events consistently off the back of nurturing. So do webinars on a regular cadence. If monthly is a bit hard for you to commit to initially, do every second month or at least quarterly. If you're not doing them quarterly, you're really not showing up, are you? So one of the nice things about webinars is, and we recommend Zoom. I'll explain why in next week's webinar. I know, Elizabeth, you asked a question about why Zoom over GoTo. But to set up a webinar, you've only got to have a title for it and enough information to cover what you're going to cover in the event. So intro paragraph, half a dozen dot points are the main things you're going to teach, and sell the sizzle a bit about why people should attend. And you don't have to have the slide deck done yet, but it'll be all right on the night because you make deadlines your friend and you get ready. You're not going to show up unprepared, are you? So webinars are great for that. Physical events are too. But start doing events, commit to them. I recommend training, by the way, in public speaking. If you want some recommendations around that, email us afterwards. There are specialist trainers around. While it's great to join something like Toastmasters, I was a founding member of a club years ago in my early 20s, and it was useful. Toastmasters is kind of like the swimming pool. A swimming pool is great for practice, for doing the laps, because you don't get good at swimming by thinking about it. You get good at it by doing it. You've got to do the miles, but you need tuition. So Toastmasters is a good, supportive, friendly environment. You can go along there once a month. Some clubs meet at breakfast sort of times, others are lunch, others are dinner. Find a club where you like the demographic of the people there. You want one that's a bit of a match for your maybe age group or vibe. But in my experience, Toastmasters is a very slow way to get good at speaking. There are a couple of courses that are run down Sydney way. If you're in other countries, we're happy to do research in the US and UK as well. But if you do a live-in course on public speaking that might go 3, 4, even 6 days, there's a really good one that's going for 6 days coming up in Sydney that actually I'm doing, and Isabella, my wife, who works in Paradox as well, that we're actually doing ourselves to brush up on our skills. They really do make permanent shift in your ability to present, and that flows through to your confidence in everything. Client meetings, just in life. Okay, sell. Here comes the course language warning, of course, my running gag about sell being a 4-letter word, because I know a lot of accountants out there, probably not you, if you've, subscribe to Paradox information, you've seen us in social media, you're here at this webinar watching this video, you're probably progressive. But a lot of accountants think selling's beneath them. But it's true, nothing happens until somebody sells something. I've been involved in software-related startups. I was a co-founder at Business Fitness. I've been involved in technology startups with medical devices, consulting startups, grown firms from a handful of people to 60, 70, and I've seen businesses evolve. And in the early days, it doesn't matter how good your product or service is, you don't get to deliver it until somebody sells it. So your sales process is crucial. Now in the coming months, in April, or is it May? Anyway, in the next couple of months, we'll be doing some webinars on sales process, and we're developing, it's been requested for a long time now, but doing specialist workshops for selling skills for accountants and advisors that will involve a whole range of things: profiling your team, working out who in the team could and should be involved and who should not be involved in your sales process, workshops, mentoring, and we're partnering with someone who's mind-blowingly great at teaching how to sell. Because I used to think selling was beneath me. That's why I can so confidently sort of relate to that. Oh no, selling's for people who didn't go to university, because that's how I used to feel. But once you learn sales process, sales psychology, and put that together into an ethical, effective, and also tech-savvy sales process, your business will change. And I've helped a lot of businesses, including Business Fitness, clients of ours, to double, triple, quadruple their revenue in the space of just a handful of years. And often the leverage point, sure, it's sometimes lead generation, but often it's conversion rate and average dollar value of the engagement. And that all comes from your sales process. So for us, marketing is a big skill gap for firms, but we know for a fact, because we've done a lot of surveys of firms. I'm doing the opening keynote in May at the CPA Australia Public Practice Conference in Lorne in Victoria, and it's on strategy, and we're surveying all of the practitioners in the lead up to that. And anyway, that's an example of the surveys. We're always surveying people. And about 3/4 of the accounting profession has never been formally trained in how to sell. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Once you are trained in it, you'll be amazed. It's very clever. It's half art, half science. And it's basically just understanding human psychology. Now, you've got to have a structured sales process. A sales process is not, you get an inquiry, whoever happens to pick up the phone handles the inquiry, whether that's a professional chargeable team member or whether that's a support admin receptionist, and then the prospect goes, oh yeah, look, I'm thinking about changing accountants, could I talk to someone there? And then you make an appointment with them. That's not a sales process. You need a 3-step sales process that has distinct objectives at each step. And I can't go into it now, we don't have the time, but you've got to have a structured sales process that's documented in your standard operating procedures, in your wiki. You should have it documented in words, and you should have it documented in a flow chart. If you're a Paradox member, have a look in the Facebook group, the closed Facebook group, because recently Paul Sweeney asked the question about documenting processes, and we've shared a template out of Lucid Chart, a vertical swim lane flow chart, that, by the way, we learnt from one of our members, Craig Parsons, from Tin and Parsons, though they've just had a rebrand. They're going to be called Cadence. They're merging firms, and they asked us to come up with a new name for them. But anyway, there's some really cool tools to visually document your processes, whether they're operational, marketing, sales, HR, and you need to have that structured sales process. You've got to get training in sales process, because sales is everything from the front end of the sale, handling inquiries, through the middle part of that sale, which is information gathering, diagnostic, involves a bit of technology. The pointy end of the sale, actually the conversation, getting people to move to a point of commitment. And there's also the technology aspect that flows on onboarding that we'll talk about in a moment. And you need to be trained in that. And if you've got advisors, whether that's you or team members, that you're expecting them to be rainmakers, to bring in new clients or to upsell, cross-sell clients, and you don't have a structured sales process and you haven't trained them in it, you're pushing the proverbial uphill with a pointy stick. It doesn't work and stinks. So your first conversion in your sales process is to sell the sales process. Now, if you have access to our Modern Marketing Academy, we covered this in Module 6 called Your Filter. The front end of your sales process dictates 80% of the probability of it being an effective sales process. Note I said effective because for us, sales is not just about conversion, it's about the integrity of the match between the promises made and what people are going to experience. And use collaborative pricing and scoping tools. There are many out there. For accounting and advisory tools, we recommend Practice Ignition. We did a deep dive webinar for members only last month on that. You can see a recording of that in the Paradox platform. It's under the Academy menu, and when you hover over the Modern Marketing Academy on the left of the screen, if you remember, down the bottom, we've got our Ask an Expert webinars and all the recent recordings are in there. But Practice Ignition, or PI, as it's often called, amazing tool. You really should be using it, unless you've got a really strong reason not to use it because you've already built maybe some custom apps or something. You've got some, like for example, Zero Books. I interviewed Greg Tuckwell from Zero Books, Platinum Partner that we've helped from day dot. Interviewed Greg last week, and he doesn't use PI because they've done some custom development, but that's the exception, not the rule. So collaborative meaning you don't have a meeting with a prospective client or even an existing client, we're talking about other engagements, and then go, I'll get that proposal to you later. Do it there and then. You can do it together because then it actually is collaborative, because you don't want to have the inefficiency and the loss of momentum of sending them a proposal a day or 2 or 3 or a week or more later, because the opportunity starts to dwindle from there. And you can also read the non-verbals, because let's say you tick a box and say, all right, we like to work with our clients and have proper business relationships. We're going to, I'll use an example here. You know, we're your external CFO. Our goal is to guide you every month about growing your top line, controlling your expenses, you know, making sure that the gross profit is where it could be, you know, advising you about you know, when the time's right, when you might need to grow your fixed costs or not, and make sure that, you know, your net profit is being optimized and we're planning around your tax. Now, that's not going to happen through a conversation once a year, and even quarterly. That's really not proper guidance. So we like to work with all of our clients monthly on this advisory. You tick a box and they see the price. So depending on their face, when they see that price, they might go, oh, they might do this one. You can read it. And that's all part of sales skills training as well. But then let's say you pick up that they're negative about that idea of the price. You go, right, if that's outside of the current budget, at the minimum, let's look at quarterly. And then they see a much lower price, and that's called contrast. Thank you, Dr. Robert Cialdini, Influence book. It's common sense. And they'll go, oh, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it quarterly, and maybe we'll look at doing a monthly down the train. So it must be collaborative. So you scope it and price it. They see right there. Because if they're going to have sticker shock, it's called, if someone sees a proposal later and they go, and they're shocked, sticker shock is just a term out of the car industry where people see the price and go, oh, you don't want that to happen in your sales process. So that velocity of your sales process is crucial, and unless you're doing the collaborative pricing and scoping, you'll start to lose that. And you know, that expectation management is crucial in sales. That's what I was talking before about. Yeah, you want to convert them, but you also want to make sure that you're setting their expectations at the right level. Anyone can overpromise and underdeliver, but that's not going to work long term. No point. So that's marketing mistake number 9. No sales process, no sales skills. And the last point here is onboarding. And I firmly believe that your client onboarding process is part of your marketing. It's the segue from marketing is making promises, one-to-many, but it's communicating value. Selling is communicating value and it's problem-solving one-to-one or 1 to 2 or 3. And then onboarding is basically the meshing of those promises to make sure that you deliver and that there's a great initial experience in every way, so that their expectations are met. Now, I'll share a story with you. It's a horror story. I don't know what rating it would be, but put the kids away right now. No, I'm kidding. Here's a firm. We've not worked with them directly, but they're a very high-profile firm. They've won various awards. And I know someone who works there, and I won't divulge too much about how I know this person. But anyway, he's really concerned that in their business, their marketing's great. Their sales process is great because they got one or two of the directors, because they got a couple of different locations, who handles the sales process. And then, boom, the new client gets handballed over the wall, so to speak, for basically the team to deliver on the promises that have just been set way up here when the reality is here. And the team member in this firm that shared it with me is stressed out because it's bad for everyone. Obviously, the client's thinking, well, I was promised this, and this, and I'm getting this. And I was promised, same day turnaround on this and that. And, you're not giving it to me. Meanwhile, the team members are feeling overloaded and stressed out, and they're probably going to leave the firm. So your onboarding needs to be treated as a crucial part of your process. Again, you need to design your standard operating procedures in text and visual and with screencasts. Collaborate and brainstorm with your team. What's the best way of dealing with onboarding? So it's not just technology. Sure, if you're using a tool like Practice Ignition, you got to love that every sort of section of the engagement that you set up in Practice Ignition, when they accept that proposal, bam, it just does workflow deployment, which is a software person's way of saying, just sets the jobs up in Zero Practice Manager without anyone lifting a finger. It's pretty good. Very, very efficient. So that's the technology side of things. But what about the soft touch side of things? So what about making sure that there's a really good introduction between, let's say, if a director or partner handle the sales process and there's going to be other team members involved in the service delivery? How is that communicated? Is it done face-to-face? Is it done through web meetings? Is it done using screencasts and great tools like Screencast-O-Matic or Loom, or different tools where you can give people a recording to explain how they get help, how the lines of communication work. Anyway, treat your onboarding very, very seriously, because you don't get that second chance, do you, to make first impressions. Once it's set, it's set. Make sure you're matching the promises and indoctrinating, which basically means saying to your new clients, here's how it works here. Here's how it's going to work best for you and best for us. They'll know that when they've got a query relating to advisory stuff, this is their go-to person. When it's relating to, invoices or their account or whatever, they can go to this other person. Just let them know how it works and do all those team member introductions and blend high tech and high touch. So at the end, what we've done, we've run through the bottom half of that marketing machine model. And the top half was building your marketing database. And the end result here is that you build a client base of your ideal client types. So you can focus on your ideal client mix. So you'll be able to get to the point where you can say no confidently with no stress to clients that are not an ideal fit for you. And then you'll have that consistent stream of warm inbound leads. And you'll grow a firm that is higher client share on the advisory level. So you're doing more with a fewer number of clients. Hands up if you'd like to have fewer clients but more revenue. Now, unless you've already got only a handful of clients, that might not be you. Oh, wow. I was doing that figuratively speaking. A number of you just put your hands up. Very cool. So it's a better business. It's a better life. Every client, your lower value clients, is still a relationship that need to be managed. And as an advisor, let's get fewer numbers of higher value clients. That's not just better commercially, but it's just better emotionally, because you have more meaningful relationships with them because you're actually doing something significant. You're changing their lives when you do that. So it's just brilliant. So higher client share, not just more market share, is what you get. And in terms of intellectual, like, you're a problem solver. And I can see the list of people here, and many of you I know, some are new, which is great as well. But you're an advisor. You like solving problems. You like helping people. You're smart. So you may as well get to bring to bear your intellectual firepower to those things that really light your fire as well. And you'll end up with a far more valuable business that is more future-proof. We all know what's happening with Compliance 1.0 era versus the new Compliance 2.0 era. If you've not heard that comparison, have a look on our homepage, practiceparadox.com.au. You'll probably relate to what's happening around compliance. It's not dying, but it's changing all right. And it's not a very high-quality relationship when it's based purely around compliance. So that's the Marketing Machine 2.0 model. Matt, in a moment. Matt, raise your hand for me in Zoom if you're cool to be unmuted and just share some of the things that you're doing around client surveys, Infusionsoft automation. It'd be really cool to hear from you if you're happy to do that. In the meantime, guys, here's how you get in touch with us. If Matt raised his hand, love you, Matt. You're always a contributor here and in masterclasses. So the easiest way, if you want to talk to us, you just go to our Contact Us page, which you can see off the webpage, and you can book a web meeting or you can book a phone call, and that sees the gaps in our calendar using an automation tool called Appointment Core, which integrates with Google Calendar and Infusionsoft, by the way, and just pick a time. We find that saves about 5 to 6 emails back and forth. When's good? When's good? When's good? I can't do that. Save me. So anyway, book a time, web or phone meeting, or look, if you're thinking, MC, don't make me jump through freaking hoops, you can just email us. You email me at mc@practiceparadox.com.au, and then my assistant Don will email you back anyway, going, hey, pick a time. And we can have a chat, just an initial chat. And if there looks like potential for us to work together, then we'll recommend our marketing gap analysis, and then we'll have a proper, in-depth web meeting where, wait for it, we'll do some collaborative pricing and scoping together about how we can support your marketing. So let's see. Have we got Matt? Let's add Matt as I'm going to promote you to panelist, Matt. And feel free, Matt, to turn on your video and to unmute yourself, though I can unmute you if you like. Matt, how are you going?
Very well, thank you.
And what are you doing with your client surveys at the moment? You mentioned you're using Google Forms, which is the tool, but share with everyone why you're bothering to do these surveys and how often you're doing them.
What I've been trying to do is get some pain points out of the customers and also testing how well we're doing our job as well. And the trick was I only had 10 questions in MC, so it didn't take them very long to fill it in. And they were pretty simple questions like, are you happy with the level of profitability? Do you regularly review waste inside your business, because we will program for that? We spoke about growth, their team, is cash flow an issue? And the biggest one of the ones that for us was, how well do you understand your numbers? And we thought we did a pretty good job at people understanding the numbers, but it came back that we're not as good as we think we are.
Okay.
So we're going to work really hard on that over the next 6 months.
So what were the questions you asked there, and what were some of the indicators that maybe you weren't communicating and helping your clients understand their numbers as well as you thought?
Well, out of our responses, 58% said they could understand their numbers better. 27% said they understand them really well, and 15% didn't understand them at all. Which is quite surprising considering how much detail we go to. So at times,
okay.
Snapshots. So it's an area that we need to work on. So we thought we had it nailed, but you can always improve. I didn't know that until I did the survey.
Exactly. One of the books that we put you onto, correct me if it wasn't me that put you onto it, but the book Ask by Ryan Levesque.
Correct. Yep, you put me onto that.
Yep, cool. So guys, that book is called Ask, A-S-K, by Ryan Levesque. Levesque has got a silent S in the middle there somewhere. It's kind of French with Q-U-E on there. And it's a very simple book, isn't it, Matt?
It is.
About what it's about. Do you want to summarise, that basic philosophy?
Well, for me, it's what you get out of, I guess, but for me it was working out, understanding what your clients want, and then do a follow-up survey to get a bit more of the detail, more of what the clients want, and then tailor a product that reaches that need. So,
exactly.
Listen to your customers, they know better than you, obviously.
Yeah. It's a simple message, but with your prospective clients, if you're continually asking, which is why we do so much surveying, so surveys and polls, etc., about what their pain points are, what they want to achieve, etc., they'll actually tell you what to provide them. And then obviously you need to design things so that they're scalable, etc. There's a little bit more to it, but yeah, be constantly surveying. So to everyone, earlier when we were looking at that conveyor belt, multiple touch points, build surveys into what you do. Matt, how often are you going to be doing the surveys with your existing clients?
Yeah, I haven't decided totally yet, but I'm thinking probably once every 6 weeks is what I'm thinking.
Okay, cool.
And there's a link in the back into Infusionsoft a little bit as well. Each quarter we send an email before we catch up to kind of what we're going to talk about at the meeting. So we'll probably structure some of our surveys around those types of things or questions we've got for them. So it gives us a bit more insight before we actually get to those meetings.
Cool.
So that's what we're thinking at this stage.
Fantastic. So you're using Google Forms as the web form tool, and thankfully Google Forms actually look nice now. They used to look terrible.
Yeah, it was really easy.
Yeah, they're not. None of these tools are very hard, are they? Once you log in and just play around with them.
I didn't even know it was there until 6 weeks ago.
There you go, because your business is already based on Google Apps, or G Suite as it's now called.
Yeah.
So you've got access to Google Forms for free anyway, included in it. And you'd be integrating, when someone answers things in a certain way in Google Forms, that would either be sending data to certain fields or tagging them in certain ways in your Infusionsoft database, yes?
To be honest, we haven't set it up because we wanted this to be anonymous, so it'll give us an honest answer. But we do know who the survey's gone out to because we tagged those sort of people, so we know roughly who's responding. So our thought pattern was to give more of an honest answer if that wasn't a name put to it.
Yeah, you could set up your surveys to be anonymous or not.
Yeah,
and guys,
in this case we did anonymous.
You've done anonymous. That's cool. And, test different approaches. We've been testing different approaches. We do a lot of surveys out through our Facebook page. Sometimes anonymous, sometimes not. So guys, looking at the list, I know some of you are about to embark on Infusionsoft implementation. You're knee deep into it, Matt, aren't you? You've been doing that for a year now, roughly.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
I was a donor when I first put the software into place. I think I could do it myself. Just keep myself.
For those of you who didn't catch that, Matt just described himself in the early stages of using Infusionsoft as a donor. They call it the donation phase, where you're paying for the software but you're not really implementing it well. I think we can all relate to that. God knows I can. So make sure that when you sign up to a tool like Infusionsoft, you also hitch your wagon to an Infusionsoft certified partner who has a structured process to make sure that you build the automations and web forms, etc. out. That just makes it happen. But for those of you who are implementing that or ActiveCampaign, just make sure you get really clear. And we're guiding, for example, Jarvis at the moment, I know, with what should be fields in a CRM versus what should be tags. And that's a little techie stuff that we understand the ins and outs of, and there are pros and cons. But at the end of the day, it's survey and poll and segment. So segment just means so that you can then communicate to specific people about specific things. You shouldn't only ever do broadcast communication, otherwise that's obviously not as personalised. So,
Well, I've got you, MC. What do you call a good survey? How many questions? How frequently?
Okay, great question, Matt. It depends, and ultimately, every time I say this, it sounds like a cop-out, but it's true. You test. So you can test, one question survey is often just called a poll. So polls are good. Test polls in the mix. And polls have just got, one question and it's multiple choice, yes, no, or a few options. So they're cool. And you can do polls and segment people too, by the way. In Infusionsoft, you can use automation links in the email so that when they click on the link in the email and go to do the poll, even without them entering their name, the system knows who it is anyway, and they answer yes, no, don't care, or whatever. So polls are good. With surveys, it depends, right? I know people that looked at our marketing gap analysis and go, oh, a prospect's not going to fill all that out, are they? And we go, yeah, they do every single time because it adds value. So our marketing gap analysis is an extreme example. It might ask 20 questions. But look, in general, a few questions. What have you been doing?
10 questions, no more.
10. Yeah, look, it's certainly high gradient to give them 10 questions if that was on an ongoing basis. I know, being a co-founder at Business Fitness, Matt, how they do the Good, Bad, Ugly survey every year on benchmarking. And for years, and Brad Gillen, I think, from Business Fitness is in today's webinar. And what they've done now, which is smart, is they've split the mega annual survey into smaller quarterly ones. So, there they are testing different approaches. But it's whatever works in the end. So you just measure the success based on A good web form tool will give you a conversion rate of how many people went to the form and how many people actually did it. So if the conversion rate's low, like FormStack can do that, but on the higher paid plan, Typeform can do that. With your Google Forms, Matt, Google Analytics can just do that for you. You can set up the completion of that form as a conversion goal. It's my understanding on that. But you got to track conversion. So Matt, if you're getting a good conversion rate of people that click through to the survey and then do it, cool. If it's a low conversion rate, then think about reducing the number of questions. We really love Typeform. We're going through the 4th generation redesign at the moment of our website, and we're using Bianca, who we recommend to anyone who asks us about website design. And Matt, you're doing the same as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we're going to use Typeform because it allows you to do forms. You know how everyone goes, oh, Xero's so good because it makes bookkeeping and accounting actually kind of fun by comparison to what it used to be years ago. Typeform makes forms that actually are really visual and they're actually beautiful forms. And what you can do with Typeform, Matt, as opposed to Google, I know you can split things across multiple things, but Typeform by default is designed to only show them one question at a time. And then it shows the next question faded out in just the top edge of it next. And when people click on something, the next question comes into view. And then the next, and that increases conversion rate because they don't see all 10 and go, whoa. Because once people answer a couple of questions, they'll probably just keep going because they've got like a skin in the game, so to speak. Yeah, cool. Well, Matt, thanks for sharing that. Antoinette has asked, can you provide the public speaking course details? Yeah, we'll email that to you, Antoinette. So Isabel, if you could note, we'll email that off. And I think that's us. Knowing me, we've gone over time. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Matt, for contributing yet again. Appreciate it, as always. Now, guys, recapping, I know some of you have been around the traps with us for a while and you've yet to become a member. You can start as a member of Paradox for $297 a month. And at the moment, the full launch of Implementer is coming this month. But the $297 a month on Implementer, you can actually start. We have an introductory offer that will expire after the official full launch of $197 a month, which will be grandfathered for the life of your subscription. And the Modern Marketing Implementer is the single most powerful way we know, like we wish we had it years ago, decades ago, which is why we built it. It's an interactive marketing implementation system that not only includes why to do it, how to do it, has a series of tasks. You can mark them off as done. You can delegate tasks to others, including us. And it gives you incredible metrics across website and social. So you'd never again have to think, what should I do next in my marketing? You just go into Implementer and do the next task across one of the 5 areas, or reach out for support through our Facebook closed group, which you get access to, or just email us at support and we help you out. So that's a really easy way to do the bare minimum with Paradox, and beyond that we can help you with your content and SEO. So guys, thanks for joining us today. I hope you've gotten value out of understanding that Marketing Machine 2.0 model. It really does work, but you need to implement it across all of those, and we know exactly how to implement it and make you succeed. So help us help you, and we look forward to working with you. And if you're an existing member, you fully lean on us. You get into that Facebook group now and ask us questions, because we can steer a car that's rolling, not one that's parked. So let's get rolling. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you for our next webinar, if you remember, this time next week. Bye for now.